guys, Emily Anderson here. So I'm officially gonna make the video that many have asked me to do about preparedness in a time of, it can be a natural disaster, it can be government takeover, whatever, but being prepared. And the thing I really want to discuss in this video is having a 72-hour kit. This is not, I did not come up with that. This is actually from Glenn Beck. I used to subscribe to his show years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I still follow him today, but these are notes from a show he did called The List. And I can't find it anywhere. I can't find show notes on it, can't find anything. So I literally, that whole episode, I have like 4 pages of notes, and we're not going to go over that right now. If you guys, down in the comments say, I'd like to hear all the notes, everything he discussed, about how to be self-sufficient, self-prepared, your families and whatnot, I would love to hear that, and maybe I'll do a longer video at another time. But at this particular point in time, I just want to talk about a 72-hour kit, that if you just needed to up and leave your house immediately, you would have a means to have some food, have some clothing, have a bathroom, and you could just up and go. So that's what I want to talk about. The other thing I'll say really quickly, and this is of the utmost importance, again, in any emergency, and this is genuine emergency talk. This isn't meant to sound, oh, extreme prepper, because, we know even the Red Cross and things like that, organizations like that, tell us we should be prepared for a natural disaster, a massive power outage, a brownout, blackout, even things more extreme like an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, that could shut down technology and electricity, that we should be prepared. We're supposed to have a fire plan, an evacuation of your house plan, an earthquake plan. So this is in line with that. This isn't meant to be extreme, but it's wisdom. We're meant to be prepared and be people who, if something happened, we're not caught with our pants down, I guess, whatever. Anyways, so one thing I will say is to have a black box or something that you can grab that has all your family's important documents in it. My husband and I have one. It has a handle on top and it latches shut, and it has birth certificates, it has marriage certificates, it has death certificates of my husband's both parents and my dad. It has our passports in it. It has, even our kids' immunization information and things like that, and records and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think, and like car insurance and forms of medical paperwork and rental and mortgage and, important paperwork that you would need. So if there was a fire, or if there was something and you just needed to up and leave your house immediately, all your very important documentation is in that you could grab immediately and then leave the house. Okay, so I recommend having that as well. My husband and I know exactly where it is. Our kids know where it is. And like I said, it latches shut and it has a handle on top so that you could just grab it and go. So that's one I would recommend having too. Now the 72-hour kit is super simple. Anybody can do it. You can find these items, at most stores, most like hardware stores like Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. But it really, what it consists of is a 5-gallon bucket. So you can go, like I said, Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, wherever you would go and buy, your construction items or, tools and things like that. So it consists of a 5-gallon bucket, and each family member should have one. So it's not just one bucket for a family. Every family member should have a bucket, okay? Because what I'm going to tell you to put in the bucket is going to be for each individual. That way everybody has their own life-sustaining items, and it's not all family stuff packed into one. You each are going to have one, okay? So in my family, the 4 of us that live together, my stepdaughter is away at college. My husband and I have talked about even just keeping a 5th one on hand because she doesn't know to do this. We should talk to her about that. But have one here knowing that we're going to connect with her and have it. So it's a 5-gallon bucket, and the purpose of the 5-gallon bucket, if there's an emergency, is it's a potty. It's a toilet. It's a means for you to use the restroom, and you're not going out in nature or leaving, a trail of, whatever. But it's a form of a bathroom. There's all sorts of things you can use. There's even special bags now. You can find them on Amazon, or I've even seen them at Big Five sporting, that there's like linings, almost like a plastic bag that you can line your bucket with when it becomes a potty. Usually, for the most purpose of it, it's going to be used to carry items. But if it's being used for a potty, a toilet, you can put a bag inside of it that lines it, so that way you can, you know, throw that away. There are also, I've seen different YouTube videos where it talks about you can use it multiple times, even with a liner in it. And what you do is you dig a little dirt from the ground wherever you are, and you put dirt over the human waste in there. And you can use the toilet multiple times in the ground. Helps the smell, and actually helps kind of soak it up between each use. I know that's terrible to talk about, but we're talking about things that, you know, if you all of a sudden up and had to go and you're on the road and you need a bathroom, that you have these 5-gallon buckets. There's even things you can buy that are like portable bathrooms. You can find those at camping stores and outdoor stores as well. But that's another expense. This 5-gallon bucket, you can use it for that as well as carrying the items I'm gonna say. So it's a toilet. If you want to get fancy, you could buy a pool noodle. I know people who have bought a pool noodle that they keep rolled up in their bucket, but if you don't want to just straddle a bucket to use the restroom, you can cut a slit in the pool noodle and create somewhat of a padded, you know, part of the bucket to sit on. These are all just things that, like, people have thought of. It's genius. You know, in a hurry, you're probably not thinking about a pool noodle, but wouldn't hurt to have a pool noodle that you could, in the long run, pad your little on-the-go potty, right? So there's that. These are the things you're going to put in your bucket, okay? Flashlights. Each bucket should have a flashlight, okay? Not talking about a long, you know, you want something that's a travel ready. It could be a crank flashlight that doesn't require batteries, or it could be one that takes batteries, but a flashlight nonetheless. I do have batteries on my list in case, again, for that flashlight, but there are so many things today now that are solar powered or, like I said, crank powered, and those would be super convenient because then you don't have to do batteries. But I do have batteries on my list if just that's the way you went. Okay, you want a couple things of ramen, top ramen, or some kind of dried food that you could make that isn't going to be heavy. That's the point of ramen, is that it's super light. On top of that, we know in the health spectrum, ramen is not that good for you because of its high sodium content. But if in survival modes, you need sodium. You actually want to have a diet with some sodium as it helps, you know, retain water and different things. So ramen's one of those things that they say you should have a couple ramens in your bucket. Okay, whatever flavor. Sunscreen or some form of sun protection. Bug spray. Bottles of water. A bottle of water, a couple bottles of water. You want a pair of clean sweats and a pair of clean underwear. You can even put them in, I would encourage you to put them in a Ziploc bag so they stay dry and they stay clean. Okay, a toothbrush, just a basic travel toothbrush. Nowadays we have electric toothbrushes, I do too. But in this situation, just a basic toothbrush and even like travel toothpaste. Each of you have one, okay? A comb or a brush, matches. It's funny because my kids, my husband and I, we like to watch a show called Alone. And it's where they drop you off in the wilderness. There's like 10 people that are competing for money to see who can survive in the wilderness the longest. And they go with just very basic, minimal items. And they're survivalists, but they go with very few items. And they have to set up their own home and hunt and fish. And we love this show. And we watch how many of them have learned how to start a fire in the wilderness. Like not even without flint and not, you know, just literally doing it with how you rub sticks together and stuff like that. That'd be awesome if you knew how to do that. But realistically, most people don't know how to do that, don't have that level of survival skill. If you do, excellent. If you don't, matches, right? And nowadays, there's so many kind of matches you can find that can get wet and still ignite. And so whatever matches you want to take or bring with you, you want matches in there so they're ready to go. A roll of toilet paper, okay? Per each bucket. I already said a bottle of water. An army camp shovel. Now, you don't have to have one of those in each bucket, but maybe mom or dad or mom and dad have a shovel. And when I say army shovel, army camp shovel, my brother has one. They aren't very big. They're like this long, and they're meant to be for survival, and the spade, the head of the shovel folds in. So then it becomes like this big, and it could sit in your bucket. but then extended, it's a good little hand shovel that if you needed to dig a little hole or secure something or dig even a big hole, would take you a little while. I'm not talking about like a garden spade. This is a good military. I think you can find them at survival stores or even many outdoor stores, camp shovels, but they fold. The spade folds in to take up less room. So he recommended having one of those. And then an emergency radio. And just a way to listen to what's going on in your state, in your town, in the U.S., in the world. And this is where it's so funny because I had a good friend message me today about, what kind of radio should we get? And absolutely, if all you have is a little mini radio that requires batteries, that's fine. It's just those are going to only get you so far. So I have a brother who has a crank radio that you crank up, you rev up, and then it creates energy inside the radio, and you can listen to AM and FM stations while it's energized, and then it eventually dies down and quiets down. So you got to rev it up again, or solar powered, anything like that. But you want to have a means of listening to what's going on in the state of the world. Obviously, you could have something like a two-way radio, but that's definitely not part of the 72-hour kit. Like if you really needed to get out, if you had a form, like a ham radio, you had a form, like, truck drivers have, certain radio capabilities, and those go far, you think of shows like Walking Dead and things like that, how they use in times where communication is down. That's a form of communication that still works, radio towers and stuff. Anyways, something to think about. But having something to be able to listen to what's happening in the state of the world, and if technology were to fritz out, it's weird. I remember Glenn Beck talking about, you have to think pre-1978 technology when it comes to survival stuff. So, but that's, we can go way more in depth. Again, if you want me to do a full video where I talk about like trades and things to have on hand, again, to trade, places to go if you got to get out of town, certain educations that are important when it comes to providing a service or being able to barter and trade. It's so funny. You almost think back to like I'm from Oregon. And so I'm like, we'll be like Oregon pioneers. And you go back to thinking survival mode versus the ease of how we've all become soft, myself included, and rely on all our fancy technologies, and which are wonderful, and I'm thankful for advancement. But it also is an Achilles heel. You know what I mean? So there's so much here to discuss, but that's the only kind of note I'll give you is think technology pre-1978, even like pre-1975. Glenn Beck said, like, all families should own a car. It's in my notes. All families should own a truck pre-1975, because all our cars now are computers. Under the hood, yeah, there's some traditional engine to it, but all of our cars post 1978 or even 1980s on, are part of it is a computer, and then engine parts. Where pre-1978, pre-1975-ish, you just had a normal engine. And so it'd be important to know how to work on an engine, how to work on a car, right? And so if something were to happen where all our technology is wiped out, whether an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, you want to have a truck, you want to have an automobile that when everybody else's car is dead, you have a Chevy or Ford, American truck that can run, because everybody else's computer cars are disabled. So that's another thing, that just to think about. So I'll leave you with that. That's what I have is for the 72-hour kits. Yeah, that's the very basic. And then you want to store it in your garage or store it somewhere that if something were to happen, you and your family could all go and access your buckets, throw them in the car, and go. And you can, most 5-gallon buckets come with a lid, so you could seal it. But you want it to be stocked. You want it to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And I would say between the 72-hour kit and your important papers folder, or bin that you could just grab and go, that has passports, marriage certificates, birth certificates, things like that, immunization records, whatever, is all in a place you could just grab and go. Any important family papers, grab and go. I guess I will say really quickly, so that's the 72-hour kit, period. But there are a handful of things that it is important to think about and to have ready but it's not necessarily going to be in your 72-hour kit because you access them daily. Things to consider, like medical needs, like are you on a life-saving medicine, you know, insulin, things of that, you know, blood pressure medicine, and these are things that you need and you access every day. But things like that you would need to survive. You have a dog, you need to have dog food on hand. You know what I mean? You can have that kind of set aside and ready in a bag too. But like my pharmacy right now, I'm only on one prescription, and it gives me 3 months at a time. And they asked me that, would you like us to give you 3 at one time instead of just month to month to month? And I didn't ask them. That's an option that they offer. So if your pharmacy or ask your doctor can prescribe, if it's a medicine that you can prescribe a couple months worth, have that ready. And that's something definitely to think about. Do you need an inhaler, you know, an EpiPen? Just think, you know, that's something that you don't use daily. But definitely think of those things and have those in a place that if you needed to grab and go, it's immediately ready to grab and go. And you can even write these things down. Okay, if something happens, that your kids and you know that we're going to grab these things and we go, right? Make sure your car always has a full tank of gas. That's even my dad and mom taught my siblings and I that, because they're from a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, and they had hard winters. In Oregon, we don't usually have a lot of snow, but they taught us you should always have a full tank of gas in case you ever just needed to go. So rarely does mine and my husband's cars get below a half a tank. We always fill it right back up. We very rarely have it below a half a tank. These are just common sense wisdom things, right? Do you have a firearm? Do you legally have a firearm? And do you practice it? That's a good thing to have readily accessible, right? And just to grab and take with you for protection, right? So those are all things to consider in just the state of this world. And, you know, and if we're going to talk food, and that can be for my next video, if you guys comment below and you want like the full list of what Glenn Beck talked about, we can do that. But you definitely want canned goods, non-perishable goods. You know, you think it's Southwest food is one of the genres of food that definitely has more, you know, canned foods. Like you think beans, tortillas. I know tortillas can go bad eventually, but like you want canned items and things that are a little heavier protein, that you could just, again, you could even have a bucket with just cans of food that you could just grab and go if you needed to. So all things to consider. If you have anything you want to add, feel free to comment below and add to this list. If you feel like I missed anything, comment below and I will definitely engage in the comments. But if you guys want to see the whole, like I have like 4 pages of notes from Glenn Beck's episode of The List, where he talks about all preparedness. Now, this does come from that he's a Mormon. I was trying to think what's the right way to say that today, because it changes sometimes. But he's a Mormon. He goes to the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. He's LDS, I guess is the right way to say it. And so they're a church that is excellent in being prepared, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not LDS. I'm not, you know, Latter-day Saints or anything like that. But they are a very prepared group of individuals, and they do a very good job at being prepared, and they're very thorough. And so that's where these notes from. So maybe you're watching this and you're like, oh, I'm LDS. And so you probably know the whole list, you know this whole thing. But it's such good common sense, because there's nothing wrong with being prepared. There's nothing wrong with having a plan in place. Nothing wrong with setting your kids down, because it removes fear. When you have a plan, then they know what they can do if something happens. Be in touch with your parents. That's part of the whole notes. You should have a list of people that you communicate with. Your parents, your brothers and sisters, their spouses, your closest friends, if you're close with your employers. There are people that you will communicate with if things go south or there's a natural disaster that you check in on and you communicate with. And even have a place that you can all meet up, set a location. Again, that's for our next video. But there are better places than others to all go to. So if you want that information, comment below and say, yes, I want to, shoot that video here soon. I will do that. We can go over my notes. So thank you for joining me. Feel free to share this. Subscribe if you like this information. This channel isn't going to always have this. Actually, this channel is going to have more encouraging content. This is encouraging, but more like hope and faith encouragement. But I do want to be someone who offers hope in this regard, that you can put a plan in place. You know, as an entrepreneur, you hear the saying, you know, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. So let's all not be failures, and let's make a plan and stick to that plan. So have a great rest of your day, you guys. Subscribe, like, share, tag, invite, whatever. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.